Hello, this is Ellis Cross with Griffon News. Appreciate your time in viewing this video. Today we're going to be discussing the plans for Alison Norris and her new administration for SGA. Hello, welcome Alison. Glad to see you're here today. I'd like to interview a little bit about your campaign for Student Government Association. Before we start all that, tell me a little bit about yourself. Who is Alison Norris?
Well, I'm from Gower, Missouri. I grew up there for most of my life. When I started Missouri Western, I became a writer for the Griffon News, and then I became a lifestyles editor and then editor-in-chief. I've also been a senator, and I'm communications director right now. Basically, I'm a really hard worker. I'll start at the bottom, and I'll work my way up, and I just try in everything I do. So I guess that's just kind of how I am.
Did you tell us what your major is?
Convergent media.
Convergent media major. Why did you select that for your major?
I felt like the way journalism is moving right now, convergence is really important, and videos as well as web designs and sound slides and things like that, I feel like are more interactive, and with our generation, more people go towards that more, and I think also it has a new way of telling a story, and I really like that fact about it, so that's why I chose convergent media.
What enticed you about Missouri Western? Why did you select this for your school?
It was really close to home, and that's basically why I chose it. I'm actually the first out of my 5 siblings to go to college, so it was kind of a big step to go to college to begin with, so I kind of thought starting close to home would be good, so.
Where do you see yourself 5 years after graduation? What kind of plans do you have?
Well, I'm engaged, so I'll be married, but I really want to be in a leadership position somewhere. I thought about, after I get my degree, I'd like to go back to school for a year and get a teaching certificate and hopefully be an advisor for either student government or a newspaper. But I also really like politics, so hopefully I'm like a governor someday.
I know as you're considering your position with SGA, student president, you've done some preliminary work, you've met with some of the other groups.
Yes.
Tell me what you've learned from those other groups so far.
Well, when I decided to run for president, I thought the first thing I need to do is go to the organizations on campus. And basically, I think we've been, I'm not sure the exact number, but maybe 12 organizations so far, and we're still continuing going to those. But the first thing I say when I talk to them is not what I'm going to do as SGA president. I want to find out what the students want me to do, because I feel like the position of president is a position of service. And by going to those different organizations, we've heard a lot of feedback and a lot of comments. There's lots of varied answers I've gotten. I've written them all down and kept track of them. Things like healthier food, calorie counters for food, having diversity training on campus, as well as some issues that they want us to bring up to the president. Things like maybe having like awareness days for different things, as well as disabilities. I was told that there's 600 students registered for disabilities. I think that's a pretty big percentage, so we need to find out ways to make it more accessible on campus, as well as find out ways to let students aware of that problem, and how we can raise awareness about those group of students.
Well, as you're finding more and more of these concerns, do you have any plan of action about how you're going to attack any given concern?
Basically, what I want to do is I still want to have a forum at the end of this year, and I want to continue to gather those suggestions, because there's so many things students want us to do, and obviously we can't do everything. So once we get all those suggestions, I want to have a poll or a survey, and I want to put it online and have the students vote, as well as having the senators go out to the students and get a large majority of feedback. And once we find out that, and find out what the students want the most, then I want to put a plan of action, have a comprehensive plan of how we're going to get it done, and I think that way we'll definitely be able to complete some of the tasks that students want us to do.
Well, Alison, I know you're aware already of my several semesters of history of someone being critical of SGA, and I know you've had some problems, and the SGA does have some problems with the apathetic members, and they won't show up. Is there anything in your plan or what you're going to do to get everybody there and everybody moving in the same direction? Do you have a plan for that?
I think it's a problem all over campus right now, honestly. the apathy of the students, and I feel like we need to focus on SGA, but we should also focus on all the students, because we're representing the students. So I think one thing is all directors need to be held accountable for their actions as well as what they do. And I think training the senators better, I already have some ideas for retreat ideas, having them properly trained to know what they're expected of as well as the great things that they can accomplish. I think we need to put a lot more effort into showing them what they can do instead of just throwing them in there. And I feel like if we do that for the directors as well as the senators, then they are going to be great examples of students as leaders, and they're going to be able to help train the whole school. That's what I'm hoping. And I also think we should go to organizations and help them as well, train their leaders.
And recently there's been an addition of a full-time staff member for SGA.
Yes.
And there's been talk about lowering or decreasing the amount of scholarships.
Yes.
How do you feel about that?
I do know that, as far as I know, we're probably going to eliminate the elections commissioner position, and I totally agree with that. I think that that position can be intertwined with communications director, but honestly, I think the senators are going to be the ones that ultimately decide. We've gotten a lot of feedback from them. Some of them feel like it should be changed, others don't think so. I feel like all the directors and all the positions work really hard for what they do. And I feel like the scholarships they get should be kept the same. But I'm also open to, if the senators feel like that it should be reduced, then I'm open to that. So from my perspective, as much work as I've done as communications this semester and last semester, I feel like the scholarship was well earned. But I also realize there's a lot of other positions in question that people don't think they've worked as hard. And I think that the best thing we can do is hold those directors accountable for what they do. And I think that, the scholarships, this is student money, and I think it's more important for the money to be going to the students than anyone else. So I don't think that should be reduced.
Hear you say that it's students' money. I like that attitude a little bit better. What capacity do you see the Vice President, Esther Perlis, and the Administrative Coordinator, Kathy Kelly, in your administration? How are you going, are they going to be in charge, or are you going to be in charge? I mean, where do they fit in your administration?
The students are in charge, first of all, because this is student money, so it should be student run. And as president, I should be making the decisions. Esther Perales, she's our advisor, and she gives lots of great advice. But I mean, that is her position. She gives us some feedback into things from the real world, how things work, maybe other SGAs, how they do things. She gives us advice on things like that, as well as Kathy's our assistant, and we tell her what we need to get done, and she gets her things done for us. She's great. She is a really hard worker, but I feel like we should be the ones in charge, and we're the ones that make the decisions, and the students are the ones that give us the feedback, so we should be feeding off all the students. So I think that their position is assistant and advisor, and that's what they are.
A considerable amount of the legislation that's been passed recently, you wrote.
Yes, that's true.
If you become president, do you think you're going to have any more time to write legislation, or are you going to be doing more of a directing the traffic and have others?
I would like to see the senators be more active and start the ideas that they get from students and the feedback they get. I would really like to see a lot more bills and resolutions written by senators. But I think the best thing we can do is come up with a comprehensive plan. And from coming up with that comprehensive plan, I think a lot of us, the senators as well as the directors, are going to know what we're going to do next year, because we're going to have gotten the feedback from the students. So I will probably still be writing some legislation. Obviously, a senator actually has to introduce it, so I probably will be co-authoring some things, but I'm going to try to get senators as well as directors more active and start doing that, because I feel like my position is a position of leadership, so I should be showing them how to do it, so when I graduate, someone else can step up and learn how to do it.
There's been some discussion lately as far as changing the Constitution, and those changes may or may not be on the ballot. Which of those changes is, one of those changes is separating residence council from SGA. That's being considered. What is this change? Why is this change even being considered? Is there a need for it?
I feel like there is a need, because our current vice president of RC, she feels like, when her oath of office, when she becomes the RC vice president, in her oath, she is dedicated to the students that live on campus. And it's almost contradicting itself because for SGA, we are all the students as a whole. So Residence Council represents the students that live on campus, and SGA represents all the students. So it's kind of a contradiction of itself. So I can't remember the name of the new organization it's going to be, but most schools on other campuses, they have this instead of how we have it branched onto SGA. So I feel like there's going to be a lot more chance for growth for them, and they're going to have a lot more feedback from people from changing it that way. And also, I feel like SGA's mission is for all the students, and I don't feel like it should be just branched on RC. Like, there was actually some legislation that went through this year for TVs, and they wanted TVs in the residence halls, and not every student can watch it in there. So I feel like a lot of times there's like this conflict between each other, and I just feel like it might be better if they separate, because they're going to have the interests of the students that live on campus, and we are going to have all the interests of all the students. So I think it's a good idea. Yeah.
Since your administration will have the extra funds if that residence council gets separated, do you have any plans for those funds?
I just recently found out about this, but I know that how they will get their funds for the new organization for resident council, I believe, is maybe just like a $10 fee for students that live on campus. But with our extra funds, I think we have a lot of really big projects, and we're at this point right now, SGA is like at groundwork. We just got a new vice president, we just got a new administrative assistant, we just are doing a lot of things. We're changing the Constitution, we're looking over things. I feel like that money could definitely be used for a certain project. I don't know a particular one right now, but I think I have about 27 suggestions from students of things they want down on campus. So I really think that we could definitely put it towards something like that. So